What's up, everybody? It's Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com. Wake up, wake up. Come on. I want everybody to get into a good mood. You control your feelings. I control my feelings. No matter what is going on in your life, you can take control. Everything is going to work out. We don't have to know exactly how it's going to work out. If we point and focus our mind towards positive outcomes, good things will happen. Yes, it may be something like what I'm about to go over with you on this one, with a court summons for this individual to help him out. But I want to tell you, everything starts with thought. If you think positive, think that you can win. You may not win in the way that you thought you would win, but you can always have a better outcome than thinking negative, than thinking that the whole world is coming down on you. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. And this is the thing. This is something that I do when I help my clients, and even for my employees. When we're talking about helping the client, we get up and we'll stand up and we'll say, hey, okay, what are we dealing with? And then after we know what we're dealing with, our minds just start clicking to say, remember what we did for that client. Remember what we did for this client. Or if this is a whole new situation, let's just break it down piece by piece. Like there was an individual that we were working with on a settlement. They tried to come at him for $22,000. We got it down to like $9,000, but he needed it to be at $4,000. And regularly, individual will be like, I just can't do it. Like, how can I get them to come down even more? And we just kept working on the debt collector with more. Well, not even debt collector. This is an original creditor that has a law firm suing this individual. So think about that. 22,000. First they were at 15,000, then they went to like 11,000, and then they went to 9,000. And this is just us going back and forth, telling them, hey, it needs to get down to this $4,000. And these are the reasons why. And they're going to keep playing because they don't want to believe that the individual has just $4,000. You know, they want people to just spend their last. And you should never spend your last on a settlement. You should always leave a buffer for you and your family. So regardless of what they want to do to empty out your bank accounts, make you start at zero, no, you need to negotiate with them back and forth. And this is what we're doing for multiple clients. So always think positive. So when I get to doing these things and I look at them, and this is a court summons, and I'm thinking this person has $17,000. They're coming after his money, $17,000. Yes, he owed the money, but just like companies and corporations and people that you hear in the news, they end up getting out of debt with doing settlements, or, you know, whatever way they use the law to get out of paying the full amount. And I think that all of us has this right to do this. And the only thing, this is a piece of paper, and the job of an attorney or a company that is coming after an individual that is trying to sue them is to make everything look so bad in the allegations to the court for this individual so they could get a judgment. And your job is to fight and say, well, this, number one, and there's a lot of other things, but I'm just going to point out one of them that a lot of people seem to skip over, is that if it's purchased by a third-party debt collector, which this one is, show me everything about this debt. I'm not running. Just show me everything about this debt. And even if they do show everything, and I noticed that in this one here, they're even showing, like telling the court up front, hey, this is a Supreme Court ruling, Rule 280.2, that we can buy this debt and collect the debt from people. But still, when you have a right to make them prove every aspect of that debt. So regardless that they can buy it and collect it, they have to still prove, according to the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, They have to prove their claim. They can't just say, this is 17,000 bucks and you owe it to us. They can do that if you don't do nothing, if you don't say nothing, if you don't write your response to make them have to get that information, to make the judge say, can you please get us this information for this gentleman to review it, and I'd like to review it also before I make my decision. Don't just go into court saying, I don't know, I don't owe them, proof the contract, all that stuff, because you're going to back yourself into a corner, which is this Supreme Court rule 280.2, which says that they can buy the debt and they can collect on the debt. Among other things, you can go read it for yourself. But bottom line, the ruling is saying that they can buy the debt and they can collect on that debt for the amount of the debt. But the opening for you, the opening for all of us, which is what I had learned back in the 90s when I first learned about doing all of this stuff, way before the credit repair shop. When I was in the United States Army, I had a credit card, and I know for a fact that the most that they gave me was $150 that I could use. And not knowing how to handle money when I was 18 years old, in the military, barely making any money, I utilized that credit card, probably used $150. I mean, I'm just going to say that's what I used. I maxed it out. But years later, a debt collector, which is Ralph Stern, which is one of the top debt collectors in the United States now, I actually, in my 20s, went toe-to-toe with this individual. And I had said a few things that probably made them go and get laws changed from state to state because of people like me and other individuals who had asked some very simple questions about buying debt and coming after an individual for a debt that you did not originate. And back then, in my 20s, all I said was I didn't know about this amount. I knew about that amount, but I know I didn't know about $4,500. That's how much they were trying to come after me for. And the judge, I guess it was my lucky day, the judge said, you got to prove that this individual owes that amount of money. And I accidentally forced a full debt validation on that account. And they came to court. They don't even do this anymore. This is when, computers, everybody, we're all spoiled right now with the computers and all that stuff. They'll send you an email with a file on there. But the stack was this big. And on that stack, it had my name, and it had the last four of an account number, and it had the amount was scratched out, but it was like this thick. And what it was the portfolio. See, back then they didn't put the portfolios on a drive. The drives couldn't hold that thick of stuff back then. A lot of people don't even believe when I say that. Back then in the 90s, they didn't have little jump drives like these. These things could barely hold one sheet of paper. I don't even think they had them. But they could barely, the computers could barely hold like 40, 50 documents. You'd have to move up to a better hard drive. So they came to court with a stack like this. And the judge looked at it, and then let me back up a little bit. When I made that request, it was just the lower lawyer. It wasn't Roush that came to court. It was, like their junior lawyer who just signs off on everything. If you show up, then he'll ask a few questions. But if you had a comeback question, it was like, oh, man, we need to ask for another hearing. That's what happened with everybody except for me. When they gave another hearing and I came back, and you got to remember, my sole reason for even fighting, like if they would have said it was $150, I probably would have paid the $150. But my sole reason for pushing so hard was like, I don't owe $4,500 to nobody. Nobody gave me that amount of credit. So I was like just pushing. They got their hearing continued, sent me the stack, and then but it was Roush, like the person who started the law firm. I was face to face with him in the room, and he showed me that stuff. And when I think of, hindsight is 2020. Because when I think about it, like, listen to me when I tell you this. When I think about it, he was sending me signals, and I just wasn't picking up on them fully. I was so focused on the 4,500 bucks. But this man was sending me signals. Like if I was to say the right thing, he would have just dismissed everything. Because what I had learned later was that the statute of limitations had ran out. He didn't even want me to mention that. The statute of limitations for them to collect on the debt had ran out. Like they could not even come after me for the debt, but I didn't know. And I attribute that, not knowing about that then was a lesson for me to be able to pass that along to everyone that's watching me here on YouTube and all of my thousands of clients that I've helped with the credit repair shop. Now, the other thing that the signal that he was giving me was that on the debt, they had actually overdid it on the amount of interest that they had did. Because if it was $150 and then they're coming at me for $4,500, either they broke the law or the original creditor broke the law by trying to charge interest over and over and over and over again after it was charged off to get it to that amount. Now, the laws may have been a little bit different back then. You see where they'll charge you interest until it's charged off, and then once it's charged off, everything just stops now. So something was done either by them or by the debt collector. But the debt collector did not want me to mention that in court. Now, we were in a room. The judge had made us go into a room to talk about this. So this was not going on in front of the judge. He said, y'all go in that room and then come back. So I just kept questioning. I said, I did not have this amount. And I could tell by his signals, he was just like, man, why don't you pay payments? No, I'm not paying that amount. And then he came and said, let me push that up there. Then he said, okay, well, how about half? No, because I did not take out that amount. Like I was just 20-year-old just said, I did not get that amount. Like, you know how it is when you're young or old, when somebody blame you for something and you didn't do it, if they say it to the wrong person, some people break down and some people be like, hey, it ain't, I didn't do it. And it's going to be a fight if you keep saying I did it. And that's how I was that day. And he just kept going back and back and back. And he went all the way down to $500. And for me, when he said $500, something in my mind just said, just let it go. Like $500 was like the move on amount for me to just, because I didn't know the laws that number one, that they couldn't even collect on, and number two, that I could challenge the amount. Like all of that stuff was illegal, what they were doing. But he said $500. I just said, hey, I'm going to do $500 and I'm going to pay it one time and I'm going to actually bring it to your office. And so we went back out in front of the judge, and the judge looked at it and he saw that it was $500. He was like, Mr. Williams, you were a great negotiator or you're a lucky person. And I didn't say nothing because I don't want to ruin anything. I don't want to get the judge to say, because you never know, judge, but I didn't know, but you know how stuff, when you see things on TV, the judge say, well, I don't accept this and I want to make y'all go back because it might not be fair to the debt collector. I didn't know. That's what was running through my mind. We ended up doing, signing off on that. There was no judgment entered with me. I told him I would bring it down within 10 days and I was going to bring it to his office with a cashier's check. I didn't even know, like, I was taking my own advice in the future. It was like the movie Back to the Future. What I tell all of my clients is you never write a check, you never use, I didn't have credit cards at that time, but you never get them access to anything. You get a money order or cashier's check, and I went and got a cashier's check. So that's my Back to the Future moment, because that's exactly what I tell all of my clients to today. But, even though nowadays it's a lot, the laws are very strict, that you don't even have to really worry about that, because they will hold them accountable. Like back in the past, you gave a debt collector your information, they blow your stuff up. But now it's not like that. They kind of hold them accountable, and they know that they don't want to violate that. But I walked it to the office, that cashier's check, $500, and uh, they didn't let you in no office like debt. If you ever go to a debt collector's office, it's going to be very guarded, very, very, very guarded, because people have gotten killed that went to a debt, and I'm talking about the workers and the lawyers have like things have happened to them when people came in to pay debt or pretend like they were going to pay a debt. So they brought me to this door, and it was a low ball. I don't want to say low ball. It was just an employee that worked there, and I said, "Here's for I negotiated this. It's $500." They went and got the file. It was $4,500. They said there's no way that the attorney accepted $500. I was like, "Go get the attorney." He came in, he put, this is true though, this is true. Like, I still remember this in my mind. He pushed that person aside and said, go do something else. And then he sat there in the window, signed off, took the $500. They bought the debt for pennies on the dollar. So, I mean, they made probably 1,000% interest on that, more than that. So, I mean, profit, return on investment on it. But that's a real story about what had happened with me on that, and it taught me a lot of lessons that I go into with what we utilize for the credit repair shop. Now let's get to this individual and what I see. And this company is Velocity Investments LLC. If you don't know about Velocity Investments LLC, what they do is they're buying auto repo debt, and they'll pay a little bit more for that type of debt because they believe that they have a better chance. And then they buy credit card debt from old portfolios. Now, one of the things and they also buy a lot of the debt that was from Lending Club for some reason. They must have a in with them. But one of the things that I see a lot with Velocity is that they will state the laws to try to beef up the way that they're able to collect on the debt. But they still leave out certain things. And I cannot mention all of my strategies on this video. And the reasons why is because it is like a war, and it would be like I'm a general and I'm sitting here telling the enemy exactly how we're going to fight back against them. We just can't do that here. If you have a court summons from a third-party debt collector, Velocity or someone, Resurgence, LVNV Funding, Calvary, any of those, send it to us. Go to my website, thecreditrepairshop.com. Go to the live chat, and you can upload the documents there for us to review, and we will have a conversation with you about what you could do to fight back. But let's just go on some of the points. Like one of the main points is there's another one that where I still to this day have never had a debt collector be able to jump over this hurdle. Not to say that they will dismiss right away, but they can never jump over this hurdle if they bought the debt. And that's the one that I leave for it if we have a consultation with you. And we will only have that consultation when we see the court summons, because we don't want a spy debt collector trying to sneak in. So the number one thing, which is I had mentioned earlier, is to make them, especially with credit card debt, make them prove the entire claim. See, they're going to come after you with this one statement, and I attribute this. This is actually the like the brain child, or thanks to a Wisconsin representative in 2006, which actually made a domino effect across the whole United States, where all they had to do was give you one statement, your last statement or the last two statements, and that was good enough to prove that you owed the debt. That was in the court's eyes. That's what they wanted. But if you think about it, remember when I was talking about how my staff and how we break things down? You have a right. You ever heard in court where they be like, I don't recall. I don't recall. And you hear that all the time. I don't recall. I don't recall. I don't recall. Well, this is your chance to use that I don't recall, which is your right. Can I review? Mr. Debt Collector, you say that I owe you $17,000. You gave two statements. You actually took the time to look up the laws, Supreme Court Rule 2080, 280.2. So you even took some time to try to beef it up to make me even look worse in court. This is the way that you're trying to do it. But there's something that you forgot to put in here. Could you please give me the all of the information, all of the charges, all of the payment history, everything that you got to prove this claim? Because you're not the original creditor. So you're just taking documents from, or filed now, from one place to another. And I'm also seeing here that this document was passed through one set of debt collectors and then passed over to another set of debt collectors. So I want to make sure that the first group of debt collectors that purchased a debt, that they got an affidavit saying that there's nothing wrong with the entire debt portfolio. Not just my information, with the entire debt portfolio. Because if one account is inaccurate, it could throw the whole portfolio out if one account is inaccurate. Because on that affidavit, they'll state that the company who purchased it, the debt collector who purchased it, assumes all responsibility for any inaccuracies. And if they say that they are not guaranteeing that 100% of the portfolio is accurate, and they don't state who's accurate and who's not accurate, how do we know that mine is 100% accurate? And you might be saying, okay, well, they'll say, well, they didn't say that yours was inaccurate. Or even if they break down and say, well, these are inaccurate and those are accurate, why would they sell a portfolio that way? That's one problem. But then, okay, show me every charge, interest rate that was charged for my review, all of the payments, all of the credits, everything. Now, when we've had debt collectors come, they'll come back and say, well, you didn't dispute any part of that. Well, I'm disputing it now. I have a right to dispute it now. And I want to review everything that you got so I can recall my memory and say that this is a charge that I dispute. This is a charge that I dispute. And if you say that I can't dispute it, give me the digital signature, the PIN code approval, or my signature that I signed for that particular charge. Give me that. Now, think about that. Think about how your mind just shifted. Think about how you just went from low confidence to high confidence without being wishy-washy, where you're saying, this is your facts, this is what I'm requesting, so we can see what the true facts are. This is my dispute. I'll dispute the whole thing if you can't prove to me all of these charges. If you were to go to the original creditor and say, give me every charge that I had and show that I signed for all of them, that original creditor would be like, okay, you want that mailed or you want that sent to you email? I don't know if they can send it by email. Maybe they'll load it up on your login portal or something. They would get that information to you. When the debt collector buys a debt, they assume that responsibility. See, they don't want you to know about that. They assume all responsibility. It's wrote in their affidavit that they assume all responsibility. Another thing that happens, especially with velocity, we just won one with velocity that was $28,000 for a trucker. Velocity is buying debt that they better be careful because they can end up getting sued over this. They're buying debt that is actually out of that is breaking the usury laws in certain states that they're trying to go after collecting the debt. So they're buying debt from people from all across the United States from these portfolios, and then they go to that individual in that state and try to sue them, and they don't even pay attention to the usury laws. Like, you can't charge that interest rate for that individual in that state. They may have been able to charge it in that state where that company was set up. But these companies, if you go to the CFPB website, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's website, you will see a whole list of companies. I just did one with MoneyLion. A whole list of companies that are in trouble. And these are corporations who have lawyers and everything that still set up loans that were passed, that were illegal interest rates for the states that they were doing business in. And the reasons why they'll do it is because they're like, until we get caught, we'll do it. And when we get caught, we made $300 million, they're going to fine us $10 million. We made $300 million, they're going to fine us $40 million. Who would you make that exchange? If you got $300 million in your pocket and the CFPB comes to you and say, well, we're suing you, we'll settle $40 million. Wouldn't you make that exchange? That's what these companies are doing. Interest rate on this one, 35.89%. So what I do is I check to see, is this interest rate even legal for the state that this individual lives in for this type of loan? And when they always try to say, ask for proof of contract. Well, Velocity always gives the original contract. That's what I'm flipping through right now. The original contract. The original contract. But I want to see something to see if they made this mistake again. And they made this mistake again with this one. And this is something that they forgot to do with that trucker. They got this original contract. Before I speak, I want to see what we got. They got the original contract, and guess what? They got the original contract, and guess what they didn't do? Guess what they didn't do? The contract is not signed. The contract is not signed digitally. It's not signed by the individual. I think we got another winner right here. And there's other things that we challenge in there. It's not just the contract with the signature. It's not just all of the charges and everything. There's a whole bunch of things that could be challenged with this. A whole bunch of things. So we're going to end the video here. I know that this was a good video. Please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. If you have debt collectors coming after you, third-party debt collectors trying to sue you in court, even original creditors will help do negotiations with original creditors. And if you dispute any part of the debt with the original creditor, that can lower your amount, and then you can, get to where you can get into a comfortable amount to be able to settle that debt. But if you have debt collectors coming after you, we can write your response. If they're suing you in court, we can help with your response, or I can show you how to do it. If you are early in the game before they try to take you to court, they just sent you the 30-day Dunning letter. You can grab my 3-pack of letters. The link is below this video. If you have debt collectors coming after you, you can stop them with either statute of limitations. That's the first thing you want to look at to make sure that they can even collect on that debt. Number 2, my cease and desist collection activities letter to make them know that you're going to be fighting them over this third-party debt that they purchased, this portfolio. And then number 3, I give you the back and forth letter, because you're going to try to go back and forth with you. I have a paid version, and that's an upgraded version, and I have a free version. Links are below this video. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, what makes a difference, so you can see my 8-point validation process and my 2-phase settlement process. That's the way that we repair credit. If you need your credit reports and scores, you can go to my website, your3scores.com. Grab those. We'll do a free review to let you know how we can help you. If you need your FICO scores, which is, see what the credit card companies see what mortgage companies, insurance, all of them, your FICO score, true FICO score. This is what they use to approve you. There's a link below there for those also. Thank you for your time. This is Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of thecreditrepairshop.com.